And good evening. This is Hour of the Wolf. My name is Jim Freund. We are recording on Sunday, July 27th, a little bit after uh, 8 p.m., which means, of course, that we scheduled this for 7. But I haven't used this software in a long time, so my confusion has been great. But we hope that if you're on YouTube, you are watching. If you are on WBAI, you are listening. If you're watching this while you're on WBAI, I want to know who your pharmacologist is. In the meantime, it's been a while since I've done one of these, all kinds of different issues involving both BAI and uh, just getting this thing going. My partner Barbara has disappeared. I suspect she's going to YouTube to make sure that we're actually there, which can be an issue. But it's usually fine. At any rate, with me is Martin Cahill, sometimes colloquially known as Marty. But Martin is when you buy the book, which we trust you are going to do, it will say Martin Cahill instead. Let's see. Now, I had a bio and everything on my phone, but an email came in the meantime that, of course, took it off my screen. There we are. Good. So, let me start out with the uh, requisite bio, which says Martin Cahill is an Ignyte Award-nominated writer. We should say the Ignyte Award is, in this case, for short fiction and is both a writer and community award. Um, Living just north of New York City and a graduate of the Clarion Writers Workshop of 2014. His debut book, which I would say is much delayed, he should have had one by now, and as those people on the radio can see, there's the cover of the book, for some reason, in reverse. Um, that often happens in this software. I don't know why. Not just this software, Zoom reverses. It's weird. Okay. I hope that if you're listening on WBAI, you're not getting it in reverse. Okay. Uh, the book came out, or is coming out, from Tachyon Publications, September of this year, 2025. He is also the author of Critical Role, Armory of Heroes, and was a contributing writer to Critical Role, Vox Machina, Stories Untold. You can find his short fiction in Clarkesworld, Reactor, Weird Horror, and many other magazines. His short story Godmeat appeared in the Best American Science Fiction and Fantasy 2019 anthology, which is edited by, well, series editor is John Joseph Adams, and the editor of that edition was Carmen Maria Machado. Machado. Brilliant writer, she is. Uh, did I say that part? Yes, I did. Martin also writes and has written book reviews, articles, and personal essays for Reactor, or.com. Uh, Reactor, why they changed their name? It's like with HBO going to Max, going to HBO Max, going to WBD, and now it's back to HBO. Hey, I don't get this sleep. Um, where was I? Yes. Reactor, Catapult, Ghostfire Gaming, Book Riot, Strange Horizons, and the Barnes and Noble Science Fiction and Fantasy blog. You can find him online at McFly. It's weird, It's the at sign McFly Cahill 90. So like star 90, but with Martin Cahill in front of it. Um, And thank you for being here, Marty.
Jim, thank you so much for having me, and thank you to our listeners at WBAI, and thank you to folks at YouTube for coming on by, and a special thank you to Jim and Barbara, two icons of the New York science fiction scene for quite a long while, and I'm very, very grateful to be here at Hour of the Wolf. It's a legendary program, and it's a wonder to be a part of it. So thank you.
I could say the same. It's 51 years old now.
Ooh, that's incredible.
Can you believe it? So let's see. Were you, speaking of Barbara, were you checking YouTube or something? I was guessing. We Okay, great. So, what it's worth, we're live on YouTube. I'm sure nobody's yet watching. They'll be tuning in after they hear about it on the radio, and we will go there. Let's chat for a minute, and then you will read for us from the book.
Yes, absolutely. I'm very excited to be reading, and I just recorded the audiobook for this last week, so I've gotten some practice under my belt reading it out loud, so that's nice.
Very good. Who's publishing the audiobook?
Recorded books, so you'll be able to have an audio copy with read by the author if you like that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Available on the same day as the book coming out on September 16th. So
Yeah,
that'll be
I'm a huge advocate of authors reading their audiobooks, which,
Yeah. Oh, it was. I've always wanted to do it. It's my very first time. I've been told often that I should try to do something with my voice, and I'd like to think that this is a good first step. So it's nice that it's my own book too, because if I messed it up, at least I messed up my own work, and if I did a good job, at least it was mine. So that feels good.
yeah. Okay. Tell us a little bit about yourself for our files.
Yeah, certainly. You did a great job reading my bio. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
My name is Marty. I've been writing for over. I've been writing for half my life, kind of thing. But I've been published professionally for over a decade. I've appeared in a number of science fiction and fantasy magazines. I've published way more than I ever thought I would in terms of short fiction, and I've got the visual for folks on YouTube. Audition for the Fox, my debut book. This is out from Tachyon on September 16th, and I'm very happy with it. I'm very pleased with it. It's a book that folks who have read it that know me have said it really is a Marty book, and I've always taken it in the spirit in which I imagine it's intended as a compliment. So it's got a little bit of science fiction, it's got a little bit of fantasy to it, it's got some in-world fables, some sort of Aesop-like morals and stories, and I'm very happy with it. I've been very lucky to get some very nice reviews so far from folks at Booklist and Library Journal, and a number of really wonderful writers I've admired and loved my whole life, who have been very generous with their time and their kindness, and who have blurbed this book. It's been very, very kind and mind-blowing to actually have words on this book that from authors I've admired, and it's we're a little bit less than 2 months until it's out, and I'm very ready for it to hit the shelves. I'm ready for the Fox to enter the world and for everybody to meet them.
To come out of its burrow, as it were.
Exactly.
Okay.
They have a number of homes, but they can only stay curled up and cozy for so long before looking for adventure.
Yeah, and they all have the voice of George Clooney. So,
If I got so lucky, if I had the budget.
yeah, right. The reading is you. The Fox, well, that's Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, we won't discuss Roald Dahl. He's gone. He's now in a place along with Neil Gaiman and some other people who we love. And
Well, we don't have to bring up any of those folks. That's fine.
yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, um, is there anything we need to know before you begin your reading?
There's nothing I think you need to know. The reading, my parents have been very nice because my parents have both read this. They both enjoyed it. Uh, the thing they've been doing with their friends is they've been giving the caveat to friends of theirs who want to support me, but maybe don't read a bunch of speculative fiction. They've been saying, Marty just sort of drops you in, so just give it a couple of pages, and it'll start to make sense. So, all to say that I wrote a book that I would like to read, which is I really enjoy when authors believe that their readers are smart people and can put things together, and we just sort of drop right into the action. So I hope I did a good job, which is all that I'll say, and if I didn't, you can let me know.
Alrighty. So I've already read the beginning. I know you've done a good job,
Oh,
and I'm
thank you, Jim.
waiting with bated breath. Don't want to bait the fox, but with bated breath to read the rest. So I am going to go off screen and hand the controls to you.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Marty.
Okay, it's just you and me, listener. I'm going to read about 15 minutes from the beginning of the book. It is a novella, so I don't ever like to read too much as it is a shorter novel. It's probably the longest novella you'll ever see, which makes it maybe the shortest novel you'll get the chance to experience. So I'm going to start. This is part 1 of Audition for the Fox, Girl Out of Time. Part 1. An hour ago, Nezzy had crept through the red and gold trees that were the woods of the world, invited to prove herself. She knew to be sly in her audition for the fox, remembering as many clay and cloud tales of their schemes as she could. Sidane, she knew, was a trickster, the first and only trickster of the pillars, and any slip-up before them could certainly result in eye teeth meeting eye. She'd expected riddles, a test of wills, an ancient, unnecessarily complicated game of Grasshopper's Gambit with, yes, the extra pieces. Even a staring contest, with clear but unspoken cheating involved on both sides. What she hadn't expected was coming to consciousness bound in chains, already in motion, walking with hundreds of others through a field of yellowing grass, the clouds above her gray and rumbling with thunder. Marching in silence, not trusting herself to speak, it was a full hour before it came back to her, what she'd gotten herself into, how she'd gotten here in the past, and the trickster who'd done it. It came to her in fits and starts, the memories that were a moment ago and still yet to come. Nezzy had made her appeal, spilling her heart to a deity she knew for a fact she should not trust, and had to try anyway, in that little homey cabin in the woods where the fox had made a den for themselves. And after having done so, she'd been met with an utter silence and stillness, reminiscent of the moment before the hunter's pounce, the flash of teeth. Until the fox of tricks had taken a sip from a chipped and paisley porcelain teacup with an annoying slurp, put it down amidst a riot of cheap, well-loved paperbacks on a cluttered side table in their otherwise spare den, and finally said, "I think I'm going to send you back in time. See what happens." All they did in response to Nezzy's clueless stare was give a mild little shrug of their orange cream shoulder, like it was nothing at all. And maybe to them, it was. Then that flash of light, the sudden whisk of clammy autumn air, the mighty lurch in her already queasy stomach as she felt and heard the flutter of 100 butterflies encircle her. Nezzy felt like she was a kit being grabbed by the scruff and flung into a darkness she couldn't see the bottom of until she hit, coming to in irons. Was Nezzy truly back in time, here, marching through grasslands both alien and intimately familiar? Who could say? This was the god of trickery, after all. Their whole thing was making a fool of others. Had Nezzy regained consciousness a good 300 years before she'd even had breakfast that morning? There was no way of knowing. Not for certain. Oh, sure, it felt real. Most tricks felt real when you had them played on you. You can't fake what you feel. The terror that jolted through her heart, wrists in chains surrounded by hundreds of others bound in the same way, that felt real. The sweat on her upper lip, forehead, and armpits, her temple robes drenched and dirty, the hunger and fear sitting tandem at the bottom of her belly, those felt real too. The bark of dogs, the sporadic cries of prisoners around her, the flinty gaze of soldiers watching them march as ranges of mountains held them all like an earthen bowl. Real, real, all too real. But they were a god. They wouldn't just send a 21-year-old girl back in time, and certainly not during what seemed like the Xemenis occupation. They wouldn't really do that. Would they? A trick, then? Surely. She tried to keep her breath steady, shoving aside the anxiety attack that was most certainly coming. This wasn't the first time one of the gods had thrust her into a test with little preparation. At least this time, she didn't have to swim for her life or hunt at night with a blindfold on. Details, details, she thought to herself. The words of authoritative Ren came to her, his soft, lilting voice usually guiding her through her panic attacks. Find the details, ground yourself, breathe the air and imagine it slows you, cold and fresh. The girl in front of her, she decided. Nezzy read her like she might read a paper, one article at a time. Her dull saffron robes were stained brown with old blood, her wrists thick with a half-dozen blue-dyed leather bracelets. The sweep of her dark hair, the shape of her belt, they did match a fashion Nezzy had seen before. When she was little, before her parents shipped her off to the temple without Granny to stop them, they would take her to the annual Parade for War's End. There, children her age would act out the crescendo of conflicts past, now more theater than education. This girl's outfit matched what Nezzy knew about the time period of the occupation. And with a shudder of remembrance, even in a parade meant for kids, whoever wrote those skits had not skimped on the blood, terror, or pain. Nezzy's hope that Sidane was merely spitting in her coffee had plummeted sharply. She tried to find a good time to whisper to the girl marching ahead, but it seemed everywhere Nezzy looked, she saw tall soldiers in heavy, plated armor. Their heads stayed in constant motion, hands gripped around sword hilts and spear shafts. At either side of the column of marching prisoners, these soldiers would ride on horseback, corralling them like cattle. Many more walked amongst the chained, deliberately snarling their irons together, or slowing someone down long enough for the person in front to have no choice but yank them forward, falling into the gray-brown slush of melted snow and mud. Nezzy saw no pattern to these armored monsters. They simply prowled as wolves among sheep, laughing whenever they pulled a bleat from the frightened. As the two nearest moved toward the outside of the column, Nezzy saw her chance and took the risk of speaking. Hey, psst, she whispered to the girl in front of her. When she turned, Nezzy thought she looked around her own age. Hey, do you know where we are? Like Nezzy, her arms were in front of her, bound in irons. Her eyes were red and looked raw. She looked like she'd cried all she could, and now all that remained was a cold, numb rage. When she spoke, her voice was low, barely more than a whisper. Her Oranoyan was lilted, a little archaic, but Nezzy could still make out what she said. What? We're in the mountains, the Cloudbreakers. Where did they take you? Near Temagar or further south down the slopes? Wolves have been stalking the Telkhani for months now, hoping to snare us from the waters. Nezzy's mind was swimming, trying to keep up. Where in all the fragile seas was Temagar? It sounded Noyan, some city of the hare's longitude where her countrymen grew strong and pale in the frail sunlight and constant snow. Eyes scanning the horizon quickly, she tried to find Cloudbreakers in the textbook of her mind and came up short. Yes, those snow-capped peaks had tops lost to the sky, so the name was accurate enough. But where was a range as massive as this? Some part of her thought she really could be in the deep north for all the snow, in which case she was nowhere near home. But no, she remembered her father said he used to ski on the Dovanyar slopes in the south as a kid, so maybe she was just lost and had to finally admit it. She kept her voice low, mouth drying rapidly. Um, no, I'm not from there. Um, I guess I'm near the capital, by Lake Oryoluthi. The girl's eyebrow went up, and a shadow passed over her eyes. If Nezzy had to guess, it was pity. The capital, huh? I don't know this lake you're talking about, but if you're from Noyavar, I don't know how you ended up half a continent away, la? But where we're going, you'll be lucky to make it back there in a funeral urn, Kyo. Oh, by the pillars! The girl shushed her, face going severe. You must be madder than a drunk scholar. Don't mention the pillars, you book skimmer. She looked around, seeing if any of the soldiers nearby had heard. After a moment of silence, she said, What's your name? So I know what to put on your urn. Nezzy felt sick. She gave her name in a low keen, eyes darting in every direction. How far could she run in irons? Could she even make it past the guards? The girl sighed and shook her head. Well, Nezzy, I'm Una. I don't know which dragon of chaos consigned you here, but my advice? Keep your mouth shut, don't talk about the gods, and pray the raven comes to you in sleep, because it truly may be the best option where we're going. Nezzy didn't hear Una. Her eyes were glued on the destination before them. A blot on the horizon grew into a massive fortress as they approached. With every step, Nezzy could make sense of more and more. For every new thing she understood, she regretted stepping forward to know it. Walls, tall and thick, made of heavy treated wood and stone, surrounded its perimeter on all sides. The yard within must have been half a mile across. She could see the slopes of tall buildings inside. How many lower buildings were there that she couldn't see? How many people in this march could fit in there? And worse, would more fit after? At each corner of the high walls, 4 guard towers stood. It seemed they'd only been here a few months. Hasty construction made them look ramshackle next to the long history of this old factory. Within each tower, a soldier stood ready, great bow at their side. Next to each, a person in robes. A dawn speaker, maybe? Rare in her time, such arcane workers. Magic that could affect the Foundation was mostly outlawed. But as she was quickly learning, the past was its own beast, and mistaking it for a creature she knew could be fatal. Approaching the imposing walls, Nezzy and the prisoners had to weave around freshly shorn tree trunks, naked and small, like an army of children left in the snow. Nezzy could only imagine what age their rings added up to, and shivered to even contemplate it. Around 500 feet of the impressive metal-reinforced door leading in, she saw that the trunks went from neat decapitations to sharp, splintered hack jobs, a guillotine's work to that of a mad butcher. It felt like crossing a symbolic border from Oranoia into ancient Zemin. Neat, orderly, and organized became brutal, broken, and vicious. Finally, the column began to halt, finding stillness like hesitantly placed green and black dominoes after a successful grasshopper's gambit, waiting to see what would happen next. I think we'll call it there, and I hope you pick up the rest to find out what happens next with Nezzy. I'm just going to hang here until Jim gets back. But that is the first part of the book. Nezzy wakes up 300 years.
There we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Uh,
you, Jim.
been a while since I've used the software and doing things like adding subtitles and stuff like that. There, you were busy reading, so you probably didn't notice that, this came up.
Oh, I did see that pop up, so
Yeah,
I was like, okay, cool.
which simply says you are watching, and in the case of being on WBAI and listening to Martin Cahill reading from and discussing his first book, Audition for the Fox, coming out in September
Woo!
2025 from Tachyon Press, or is it Tachyon Publications?
Tachyon Publications.
Yeah, yeah, I always get it wrong. I had Jacob Weissman on the show, who is the owner publisher of Tachyon, and I referred to them as a small press. And he interrupted me and said, "No, we are an independent press."
Independent, yes.
Yes, and I've been using that ever since for him and his colleagues who also have independent presses, because it's a far, far better description.
Small, yeah. I feel like there are actually enough actual small presses that there is a kind of business and vision of publication that is small press, and Tachyon is absolutely, has a much grander scope, I think, than that. So independent press feels a lot better for a place like Tachyon.
I mean, they really do given, and now, of course, I'm blanking on some of the names, but Thomas M. Dish published there. Nothing that Tom, if it was 3 words long, you wouldn't call that small. And W.P. Kinsella, one of my favorite writers.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I know Sam J. Miller,
Yeah,
Theodore Goss. There was I believe Samantha Mills is uh, her full name. Let me see. Um,
don't know
oh
her.
yes. So Samantha. Yes, Samantha Mills um, had a very infamous short story a couple of years ago called "The Rabbit Test," published through Uncanny, and then her debut novel, "The Wings Upon Her Back," was published by Tachyon last year, and that had like 4-star reviews. I mean, it did incredibly well, at least critically. I hope that translated to sales, but did very very well.
Yeah. So when people buy the book, can they also separately or together get the audiobook?
I don't know. I have no idea what the plan is for that. I would love if there was some sort of discount or ability to do so, but I I have so little control over that aspect of it. But I can certainly bring it up. It never hurts to ask.
Yeah,
The entire
absolutely. But
if
it's
yeah.
also for the potential buyer. That's you, listener, to ask and find out, because you just heard a good sample of what the author sounds like reading. And I have always been, despite work that I did for 9 years for John Joseph Adams and Stefan Rudnicki with Lightspeed and Nightmare and formerly Fantasy Magazine, I was the audio editor. But with WBAI, with Hour of the Wolf, I have always been a huge advocate of the writer reading their own work, which to brilliant pros like Stefan Rudnicki and crew is like a writer reading their own work. It was,
Gasp.
yeah.
Well, it helps. It helps that I have theater training. It helps that I have improv training. Um,
Talk about that. I wasn't aware of either. You mentioned
oh,
improv off the air. Theater training? Do tell.
well, I was a theater kid, so I've been on stage and performing, and ever since I was 11, and
Where?
that. Oh, I mean, when I was in grade school and a kid, and all the
Yeah, but New York, San Francisco.
oh, New York, in Rockland County, not too far from here, but I was all through school. I was in stuff, and then in communal plays and community theaters, and then summer camps and improv theater, and as soon as there was a I was very lucky to be able to do comedy and theater after college in the city, there were a number of opportunities that I had. It never turned into a full-time thing, but I'm really, really grateful that all of that training, all that history still gets to be in me because I get to use it for either when I'm running a game in either D&D or Daggerheart or anything like that. And
Okay, you're going to have to explain for those listeners and myself. I know what D&D is, but I don't know the other games in which you and, say, Carlos Hernandez and so many other people enjoy.
oh, I mean, just to say, I all of these tabletop role playing games, it's you know,
Also
D
known as RPGs.
Yep. So so tabletop, so TTRPGs, tabletop role playing games. Honestly, it's communal storytelling using mechanics found in dice and using random chance to help dictate the shape of that story. But really, you're just telling stories with your friends, and
Yeah,
so
I'm sorry. At a certain point, talking about theater and talking about that stuff with dice, you could be discussing guys and dolls, you know.
honestly, the amount of times I've wanted to sing "Luck Be a Lady Tonight" during some pivotal moment of storytelling, it's more than one. But I would love to see the version where Sky Masterson is off playing D&D. Um,
Yeah,
but no, but yeah, you know, this is before the pandemic, but so the writer C.S.E. Cooney, Claire Cooney, and I, we ran a workshop at ReaderCon that was about how to read your work, how to publicly get to a place where, because I mean, Jim, you know this as well as anybody, not every writer is a reader. Not every writer can read their own work or do what we're doing right now and be either off the cuff or, so we ran this workshop and it was a blast. And I would love to keep doing, you know, teaching opportunities such as that because it's just, to me, sort of a fundamental skill of being a writer is knowing how to talk about your work or
you
knowing how to
you
read your work. Yeah, like I think it was Charlie Jane Anders. I was listening to her on some podcast recently, or like some thread on Blue Sky, but she was saying something akin to how there's a new trend almost in book events where there's no reading, where people come to this event and there's an author in conversation and they'll talk about this new book, but she was sort of saying how reading from the book seems to be sort of going out of style in some senses of the word. So I hope that it comes back. But
that's Charlie's experience. My experience also as the person who runs until a year and a half ago, and I'm bringing it back, the New York Review of Science Fiction Readings, which is, I don't know, how many years old, Barbara? About 30 something years old. And in New York, the KGB Fantastic Fiction Readings are still.
oh, I'm not decrying the lack of I'm not decrying the lack of readings, and I love that KGB Fantastic Fiction and New York Review. Those are staples of me growing up as a young writer in New York
And
City.
for a
So
while, you were running a reading series.
yeah, and Erewhon was running one back in the day. I love that fact. I think Charlie Jane was referring more to, a larger, more traditional literary book event, and and it was one of her newsletters. But I'm with her on the whole point of going is to hear from the author, to hear about the book. So,
Totally
um,
agree. Totally
yeah,
agree. The next time I interview Charlie, we will have words because she.
please, hey, don't get me in trouble, Jim. I'm
No, no,
asking
no, 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 no.
between you and
Charlie,
me.
I've been known to have words more than once, and I've had her do readings for us and on the radio show, as well as at the NURSIF readings.
Hmm.
And there has never been a want of an audience.
Which is fantastic, and nor should there be because it's Charlie Jane, so people better come out. By the way, her new book is fantastic. So what if you're listening to this now or in 6 months from now, um, or watching on YouTube? Lessons in Magic and Disaster. Go buy a copy. It's very good.
Yeah.
But yeah, but yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Very strangely, we just got a note online on YouTube from Michael Burstein.
Hi, Michael.
Yeah, howdy. So he and I are going to have words as well because he's read for us before and he's been on the show, and I'd love to have him back. So
You heard it first, Michael. Get back here.
yeah, well, he's up to Boston, and
Bastin.
I just came from there because I just came from ReaderCon.
That's right. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go next year because I've. It's just taken me a long time with all the, you know.
It's been difficult, and it's not easy because it is still a masked event.
Yeah, and that's why I like it though. That's actually why I feel better going because I mask up in in larger public places as well. So I like that it's actually been able to be maintained over the years.
I agree. Although I have comments about masking during cons because when people are doing a panel, there are two things. One of them has to do with how you're hearing their voice, and number two is hard to tell when people are smiling or gesticulating or something, but it's better.
It is better. It's better. I understand where you're coming from. It is better because when people, yeah, it was last week, and the amount of people online that have been saying, I have not been seeing many people, with like, oh no, from ReaderCon. So, and it's just one of those. I think it's the trade off, unfortunately, but we'll figure it out and we'll get through it. I think, but yeah,
We're still obviously clambering our way back
yeah,
from the pandemic. It is not, the worst of it is over, but it is not totally done. You
yeah.
know,
As long as it's still present, it's still something to think about. So,
yeah, and the fellow who is now in charge of programming is a medical professional.
oh, that's incredible. I don't think I knew that. That's incredible.
Yeah,
That's awesome, and that's the thing, right? Is you know, it's a public service we can all do for each other to keep ourselves safe and experience the aspects of the con we love. And, some of that's adjustment, but I also, it's very rare for any organization to be prioritizing that level of safety these days. So,
yeah. Sadly.
sadly, but
On the one hand, I find it a great annoyance because, and on the other hand, I'm relieved.
well said.
You
Yeah.
know, it's the world in which we now live, and hopefully, a miracle will occur of some kind where somebody will say, "Lo and behold, it is gone."
Hey, knocking on a wood over here. So
Yeah,
that's me.
really.
Yeah.
So, how has your background in improv and theater and all that, if at all, uh, reflected in your work, in your writing?
Um, that's a great question. I think a lot of the muscles I developed as a public entertainer, for lack of a better word, the muscles you build when uh, there's spontaneity to be asked of you, there are people to entertain before you, there are teammates whom you're trying to uh, become telepathic with in order to communicate effectively. Um, a lot of those, a lot of those muscles are purely agnostically creative. It's the same muscle that I use when I'm helping to run a game of a tabletop game. It's the same muscle I use when I run into somebody on the street who I haven't seen in a while, or I'm asked a question somewhere, or someone asks me for directions. But so it's the same muscle that I use when I'm writing. When I say, when I'm getting into that sort of flow state of creativity, it's that same muscle that goes, oh, well, if I was on stage, that muscle might say to me, okay, well, there was just a scene between friend A and friend B, and the joke of the scene was that they're both giant spiders and they're afraid of spider-sized people. So that's funny. So how do we add to that? Oh, it could be interesting if, and then moving into that, it's the same muscle that does that, that looks at something I'm writing, and in that flow state goes, great, this was a really cool scene. I'm glad we described this bazaar. We're getting to the end of the bazaar now, and we've set the scene. And wouldn't it be interesting if our main character, who, we know that he's really in his head about this thing that no one else knows about, wouldn't it be interesting if, his sister, who he's scared of, surprises him at the end of the bazaar with a coffee, right? Like, you're introducing your own complications, you're introducing your own plot and elements, but you're doing so hopefully in a way that at least feels organic. It feels like it's picking up from threads you've laid before. So it's the same way in a good improv scene. In a good, there's a reason
Just
if
so,
you,
that, just so long as people know the rules of improv, which are do not gainsay what anybody says when you say there are these spiders. Don't let anybody say, no, it's not a spider, it's a mosquito.
right.
It has to
Well,
be, the key word is always and.
yeah, you're iterating and you're building on something. And that's the thing when there is a certain sense of magic. If you, Jim, have experienced this, if listeners, if watchers, if you've gone to if you've ever gone to see an improv show anywhere, UCB, Second City, anything like that, you will know if you witness an incredible improv scene and then you try to tell someone about it later, you will most likely falter. You will most likely
Yeah,
not be able to convey why you found it so engaging in that moment. What about it was so spectacular can only be experienced in that moment. And I think that is, to me, that's one of many definitions of good art, but I think that's one of them. It is the experience of what I'm reading, watching, seeing, experience, hearing, anything is unique and beautiful and magical to me in this moment, and it makes me feel something. And when I try to tell someone about it later, I'll only ever be able to capture maybe 20% of what that meant to me. And maybe that's okay, right? Maybe that 80% is just for the consumer of that art. But I do think, improv and theater like teaches you to be a good collaborator. So anytime you're working with an agent or an editor,
huh,
or
sorry.
even fellow writer, yeah, even fellow writers, it's it has to be an egoless place. It has to be a place where your idea is just as good as somebody else's, and many of the people will probably do have better ideas than you. And it's a team sport. It is freeing yourself from the notion of what you have to do or should be doing, and rather focusing on what you can do to support others. And so it really. I tell any writer worth their salt, I say, look, you don't have to go study Shakespeare. You don't have to go do a year-long, masterclass. If you ever have the opportunity, go to a workshop. Take an improv 101 class. Even if you hate it, even if it makes your soul cringe to have to get up there, it's not always a
Runs through your veins, yeah.
yeah, it's not, and it's not all, what
It's sort of like hosting a radio show, I have to say.
yeah, it's the same skills.
Yeah, a lot of the same skills. Believe it or not, we have 1 minute left.
Whoa, well that went great.
It do fly.
It do fly.
And like in McFly or Marty McFly, but
That's me.
instead think of is it Marty Cahill 90 at
McFly Cahill 90, Blue
McFly?
Sky, Instagram. I'm around. And yeah, you'll certainly be seeing a lot more of me through September and the fall. And I'm working on some new stuff, so fingers crossed that finds a home, so I can keep annoying all you fine people with
Okay,
work
yes,
with my imagination.
and you're invited back either as a guest or if you have an idea for book review or something that you want to do,
That'd be lovely.
be in touch.
I would love that, Jim. I'll keep in touch. I'll bother you.
Okay, very good. So again, everybody, it's Martin Cahill, Cahill. Uh,
Correct.
it's only proper to say that auditioning for the Fox,
Audition for the
audition for the
Fox.
Fox,
Yep.
right? Didn't have it right in front of me. Is coming out in September 2025 from Tachyon Press. Ask for it by name or look for it by really nice cover.
That is Elizabeth's story, cover artist and designer. She's incredible. There's more art in the book, and I hope people enjoy it. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thank you, Marty. And we'll talk soon.
You got it. Thank you so much.
Okay, don't hang up as we go off.